All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Um, so I am Haroon Sheikh, the chair of the Rules Committee. I have,
I'm Ava Swift, Senator for College of Arts and Sciences.
and we're just two members from the Rules Committee. Unfortunately, our colleagues couldn't join us today, but as required by Part 13 of the SGA bylaws, it is required to, whatever changes that we make to the bylaws, we have to make it public. So that's why we're here. And at any time, if you have questions, just raise your hand and I will stop. If you're wondering where this summary, what I'm reading off of it is on MapSync. So you can have that pulled up on your end as well. And if you need the specific bylaw changes, like the document itself, you can request for it. I will have someone send it to you as soon as you ask for it, okay? So starting with let's see. Strengthening Senate procedures. So this is just updating or putting the current Senate procedures in words. So one of the updates we made is to clarify how a tie-breaking authority goes for the presiding officer during the Senate, which is the chair, likely the VP. If the Senate were to be at a 50-50 split, of course, the VP has the tie-breaking vote. It was just not put in words, so that's just a normal change there. And then it also goes over speaking rights. Right now, speaking rights or people with speaking rights are senators, executive members, and FYLC ambassadors. And anyone else in the meeting who want to speak can just raise, they will have to request someone else to yield their time to them. Something we did notice though in all these meetings is that every time we have a question or where we don't know what the procedure is or what we can or cannot do, when there's some ambiguity about policy, university policy, we always ask the SG advisor, but currently it does not let the SG advisor to speak on any procedural guidance or institutional context. So that's just put in wording. Yeah, and can
Go over the budget committee? Okay.
if you want to.
I don't know.
Moving on, we have the budget committee oversight expansion. So this is not exactly a change. I wouldn't think of it as a change because this is something that has been happening in practice so far. The only issue is it was not put in words. With the current policy that we had was contradicting what we were actually doing and what the university actually requires us to do. So every time and a part of the SGA requires money for their events or any purchase requests, they have to place those to the budget committee, and budget committee reviews them, sees if it's in compliance, and approves or denies it, or gives them another chance to file another one, right? The current wording in the bylaws had some thresholds. So, for example, one second. Any recurring purchases requiring SGA funds, or I'm sorry, any long-term initiatives of the SGA that requires our funds, about $200 would be showed to the budget committee according to the what is written here. And then any purchase requests made through a resolution totaling over $500 would have to go to the budget committee. But in practice, we have had any purchase request, regardless of the dollar amount, go through the budget committee, because that is what the university requires us, that's what actual policy and practice is. So this is just a change in the wording of it. But it's not something we're gonna start anything new, it's just that what's been happening so far.
You wanna go over the improving oversight? I can do this.
Okay. And then improving oversight and conflict of interest safeguards. So. There's nothing specific here. This is just adding, clarifying what agency or what this ties into is the next part, the agency council clarity, and my colleague here will go over that, but this is just adding additional language to clarify resignation timelines, recusal expectations, and then preserving the election process. I believe this is also about the about conflict of interest for election commissioners, so people who are already on SGA, who are by default supposed to be looking for election commissioners, who may want to run in the future for elected office, because they are wanting to run for election and they're choosing the electing body at this point. Yeah, there's a conflict of interest, so it just clarifies that language, nothing much over there either.
So as for the agency council clarity and leadership structure, we just made some changes to make sure everything was compliant from SGA down to all of the agencies under SGA. We had some difference in the way we had the positions named, and then there was also some differences in bylaws that were allowing the directors to be more members of their group rather than being separate ex officio members. Because they are obviously hired by UNO and they need to run under HR guidelines. So we changed the wording to reinforce those things to make sure that they're in compliance with SGA's bylaws. And also clarify the vocabulary used for their title so that we don't have co-directors, because directors are the ones being paid and it doesn't make sense to have co-directors when they're kind of a separate entity.
Vice president co-directors we can't have vice president or president.
Okay, but the co-directors aren't paid.
Oh, no, co-directors meeting times two directors, they are paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah,
they're
yeah,
paid.
I know what you mean now. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
But
So we're just trying to clarify the language on that to make sure that we're in compliance with how UNO's HR guidelines are gonna work. And then also removal and accountability procedures. We clarified some things for our executive board to make sure that there was ways for them to be impeached, because there was some
there's no proper.
yeah, there was not like a proper, I guess, what would you call it, like process for impeachment in the bylaws that made sense for their roles. So we added some verbiage to clarify that and make sure it was possible in all different situations. Just because it was very, it just wasn't accurate for our student government. Budget and reserve clarifications. I don't know a ton about that. Can you talk about that? And then I'll go into Kale's thing.
Oh, yes, budget and reserve clarifications, so those of you who have been those of you who knew anything about how agencies get their funding and all that, already know that there's a body called the SABC, or Student Activities Budget Commission, that allots or that decides on how student fees are allocated among different agencies. So this is just, this was not put in wording, so this is just reaffirming what the expectations from SABC is, the expectations from commissioners, whether it be student commissioners or student at large commission, Senate commissioners and student at large commissioners. So again, this has been in practice. There's no big changes in this either.
Okay, and then for the student senate membership number count, this was something that Senator Cale Johnson kind of did, so I'm gonna read what he said about it. Due to consistent vacancies year after year in the student senate, I thought it would be best for proportional representation to reduce the total number of senators in student government by 2. All colleges are proportionally allocated senators by the number of enrolled students. Because the student body and SGA Senate has consistently failed to elect the full amount of senators, the college representation is skewed and non-proportional. So, for example, some colleges currently have the ability to elect 3 senators, but have only elected 1, which requires the senator to represent an entire college themselves. As for this change, it's not decreasing representation for an entire college, and it's not taking anything away because those positions are already vacant. And since we've dealt with the vacancy, it makes more sense for us to, in my opinion, to reconstitute the Senate seats so that the correct amount of students are being represented by the correct amount of senators, rather than having vacant seats trying to fill them that people aren't interested in being elected for. So this would not take effect until the 2027-2028 year. And we did make sure to have lots of opportunities otherwise to be involved in SGA through being an ambassador, an affiliate. You can be an agency director, a council member, or the student court, the parking appeals. All of those are still options for people who want to represent the student body in some way. Taking these 2 Senate seats away is just, again, in my opinion, a better way to use our resources in SGA and not have constant appointments that we have to make because people are resigning from their positions, so.
Thank you, and just to clarify, so by decreasing the total Senate count, we as a committee are not suggesting which college is going to lose a Senate seat or something, and this is not going to go into effect for the upcoming elections either. This is something for the year after, and this is something for the election commission the year after to decide, because right now we don't have any numbers of how to, take out these Senate seats, and in our opinion, as a committee, we don't have the right to decide that. So this is again only half the way there. This is going to be continued later throughout the different administrations that come through. And to go back up, just to clarify about agents. Yes, the agency council lead. Oh, it's not working. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so the agency council clarity and leadership. So this is just, as mentioned before, we are trying to get more clarity about how the hierarchy works within SGA. If each agency has an executive board per se, that is conflicting, that is confusing, because then the SGA as a whole also has an executive board led by the student regent. So just to clarify that, the word board is being changed to council, so now they're not board members anymore, it's council members. That's what this is proposing. And then titles, like the only acceptable titles for people leading the agency is either director or co-director. Co-director if there's 2 directors. But while reviewing the bylaws, we have noticed inconsistencies in the language. There were directors, and then there was a vice president. There was a vice director in one of these agencies. I don't remember which one exactly, but that creates a lot of confusion. That's creating roles that don't even exist, that don't make any sense. So this is creating more clarity on that. And the ex officio members, so any agency director who has been an agency director who is currently serving and later on, if they are not voted in to continue their position as a director, uh just because they were a director previously doesn't automatically guarantee them membership to the board, because again, SJ did not confirm them to lead the agency. So, however, because this person because whoever they are, because they have already served on the board before, it only makes sense that they have a lot of experience with the agency. So, in order to let them have a voice in their agency, we're creating what is called an ex officio member. So they will be part of the board, just they just won't have any voting rights. So it's like a ceremonial post, they're still there. They can retain council membership if they, of course, go through the proper interview process and get selected in that way. That's what we had, so that's all we have. If there are any questions, concerns, comments, we would love to hear those right now. Thank you, Trenton. Also, we will, if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to leave or just stay if you want to come up with some questions later, but we will stay here. So you're welcome to leave or join, or it's up to you. And of course, we thank you for joining this meeting. It tells us that you care about what SJ is doing and keeping and holding us accountable. So thank you again for taking the time out of your day. I know it's a Friday right before spring break. Thank you so much. Thank you, Olivia. Have a nice spring break. Thank you, Cornelius. Hey. All right, so thank you guys for your time and attention. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us individually, or you can come up to Senate when this will be presented, and voice your concerns if you have any. Again, thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your spring break.